It's time for Lefties Losing It. Let's go to the Cannes Film Festival where the uber rich and famous gather to congratulate themselves about how special, brave, humble and inclusive they are and how they are at the forefront of fighting fascism. Here is a once great actor turned TDS sufferer, Robert De Niro.
In my country, we're fighting like hell for the democracy we once took for granted. And that affects all of us. That affects all of us here because the arts are democratic. Art is inclusive. It brings people together. Like tonight, art looks for truth. Art embraces diversity. And that's why art is a threat. That's why we are a threat to autocrats and fascists.
Yes, the film industry is so inclusive, Robert. You actors have such a perfect moral compass with your sick, sordid personal lives. Did you notice global warming hysteric Leonardo DiCaprio on stage there with De Niro, the dude who flies around the world in private jets and sails in massive yachts, but is really, really concerned about emissions? And as for being inclusive, well, the 50-year-old is not very inclusive of women over 25. Not in his dating life anyway. But let's get back to Robert De Niro's mad rant. Here he lies with gay abandon.
America's Philistine president has had himself appointed head of one of our premier cultural institutions. He has cut funding and support to the arts, humanities, and education. All these attacks are unacceptable. And this isn't just an American problem. It's a global one. Unlike a film, we can't just sit back and watch. We have to act, and we have to act now.
We have to act. We have to act now. It's amazing that Donald Trump, the fascist dictator, allows De Niro to defame him so easily. Why isn't he arresting him, putting him in jail? Isn't that what dictators do? And isn't that what we were told would happen? Remember when De Niro and fellow TDS sufferer Bill Maher were saying, before the election, what would happen if Trump won?
If he wins the election, you won't be on the show anymore. He'll come looking for me. There'll be things that happen that none of us can imagine. That's what happens in that kind of a dictatorship, which is what he says. Let's believe him. Take him at his word.
I did from the beginning.
Yeah.
I mean, I said from the very beginning, this guy is never going to concede power.
No, he hasn't conceded power. He's your president. And weren't you dining with him at the White House, Bill Maher? And somehow Robert De Niro is still not locked up. Here's another lefty losing it actor, Ben Stiller, who also has crazy fever dreams about Trump coming after him.
It's impossible not to be aware of the fact that people feel this, that, oh, wow, there can be retribution from the government if you say something wrong. And that's really scary. So just to even be thinking that way is, but, of course, I'm aware of it. I think everybody's aware of it.
Can someone tell Ben Stiller that it was the previous administration that went after grandmothers for posting funny memes and sought to have school mums concerned about trans indoctrination in classrooms, sought to have them labelled domestic terrorists? All these clowns do is lie. If he was really genuinely worried about repercussions from the Trump administration, I can tell you Ben Stiller would be keeping his mouth shut. One thing you can say about Hollywood, they ain't brave. Here's another actor, Pedro Pascal. When he's not signing letters accusing Israel of genocide, he's eager to tell you that being against the deportation of illegal immigrants means he's on the right side of history.
I want people to be safe and to be protected, and I want very much to live on the right side of history. And I'm an immigrant. My parents are refugees from Chile. I myself was a refugee. We fled a dictatorship, and I was privileged enough to grow up in the U.S.
In a world of miserable, hysterical clowns like De Niro and Stiller, pays to be a Jerry. Here is Jerry Seinfeld treating the loopy left with the disdain they richly deserve.
You, Jerry Seinfeld, free Palestine! You support the genocide of babies in Gaza! Free Palestine!
I love the kid blowing a kiss there at the end. You know who is much funnier than many of these triggered comics? It's 45 and 47, yes. POTUS was again cracking jokes earlier today, describing how he came to secure the Olympics for America after his 2016 election triumph.
When I spoke to this gentleman, who was obviously Scandinavian, seriously Scandinavian, and very nice, I couldn't get him off the phone because he was so starved for love. He just kept, I must have had him for 2 hours. I couldn't. I said, sir, I have to go. I'm president-elect. Yes. All I said to him, yes, 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 we will take good care. They wanted to know that if they choose us for the Olympics, will we treat them nicely? And I said, we're going to treat you like so well, like you've never been treated.
But it didn't stop at the Olympics. Trump also secured the World Cup for America, and because of the 2020 election shenanigans, he'll be president when both events take place.
And we got the World Cup. I got them both, and I said, man, I won't be president. I won't be. I got the Olympics and the World Cup, and I won't be president. And they're going to forget that I got them. Nobody's going to mention it because, you know, a little bit that's the way life is. And then they rigged the election. And then I said, you know what I'll do? I'll run again, and I'll shove it up their ass. I then realized, I said, you know what? I got the Olympics, I got the World Cup, and I got the 250th. Look at the way this works out. So if they would have left us alone and wouldn't have cheated on the election and wouldn't have rigged it, I would have been retired right now. I would have been happily doing something else. And instead, they have me for 4 more years. Can you believe it?
And when it comes to Trump, we know that the opinion polls always understate his popularity, but the polls are nevertheless turning, and even CNN is forced to acknowledge that unhappy news. Unhappy for them.
I think it's time for a bit of a reality check, right? We were going to late April. Donald Trump's approval rating, his net approval seemed to be falling. He seemed to be adios amigos. People were writing his political obituary. He is rising from the dead. Look at this. Hello, Trump's net approval rating among voters. This is the Reuters Ipsos polling. Look at this. In late April, he was 8 points underwater. But look at where he was in the most recent poll among voters. He's up 7 points.
Let's bring in Sky News contributor Kosha Gator. Kosha, it's not just the Ipsos poll, as CNN noted in that segment. His approval rating is up across numerous polls, and you can kind of see why with the Middle East trip and some of these trade deals that are being struck.
He just is this ball of energy, and he doesn't stop. He's just getting one thing done after the other after what seems like 8 years or 4 years under Biden of just like nothing getting done. So just the contrast in there. His policy positions are very popular. They've always been popular. His personality is something that was always polarizing, and that shows through in these poll numbers. But now even that gap seems to be closing, where the people who loved him still love him. And a lot of people who didn't love him, I think, do respect him, even if they don't admit it anymore, whether it's the assassination attempts or just the way he's approaching this role. All of that, I think, just coalesces into these poll numbers. They won't last forever, but he is certainly riding high.
Now to James Comey, who has gone on MSNBC to defend himself after he was questioned over what was seen as a threat to President Donald Trump. He posted this image saying 86-47. He claims he had no idea what those numbers meant.
You were back in the middle of a political firestorm.
Yeah, for walking on the beach with my wife. So I don't know how we ended up here. It never occurred to me that it was any kind of controversial thing, but that's the time we live in.
Kosha, really. I mean, he's claiming here that 86-47 is just a clever way to express a political viewpoint, and he didn't know of the violent meaning behind the number 86. Explain to my audience why that post caused such concern.
So 47, obviously Trump's the 47th president, and 86 in American slang, it can mean something milder like canceling an order at a diner, to something much more sinister, like ordering a hit.
Well, certainly in recent times, it's been to kill.
For sure. And
get rid of is the softer version, but...
Yes. And the point is, it's not so much the code. Like, I don't even think people are alleging that he's issuing some secret command off X. It is that you are the former FBI director.
Yeah.
So your position carries weight, your words carry weight, your tweets and X posts carry weight. And to just casually throw that thing out there, even if he was doing it to be funny, which I don't think people think of him as somebody who'd be doing comedy on there, but even if he were doing that, it's just irresponsible, and that's why it created this whole firestorm. And also, it's a new day where the Trump administration wants to be on offense and go after these kinds of innuendos and insinuations from the other side in a way that maybe they would not have last time.
It's just an incredible thing for a former FBI director to do, particularly against a president who's already had 2 assassination attempts, and we always know there's threats against his life. Just astonishing work there. Now to another example of no one being above the law. Interim US Attorney Alina Habba has announced today that her office has charged Congresswoman McIver with violation of Title 18. This is for allegedly assaulting, impeding and interfering with law enforcement. Here is some footage of that incident. The Democrat Congresswoman is in red in this footage. Those antics, kosher, were outside an ICE facility in New Jersey, immigration detention centre. Incredible the Democrats think they can behave like that with cameras there, with law enforcement and not have some sort of an investigation or possible charges.
I think they believe that because it's never happened. Like, the other side just never, ever goes after anything like this. And it started with words where they say, you know, we will resist, or I think it was the governor of New Jersey or Connecticut or both of them who said that they're hiding somebody on top of their garage. Then it moved into trespassing. So the mayor of New York, in that same incident over there, was actually charged with trespassing, and then those charges were dropped. And then it went further, where she's putting her hands on an officer, which if anybody else, if you or I did that, there very well could and should be consequences to it. So she thinks she's above the system because this is a clashing of different branches of government and the executive branch with a congressional representative. However, nobody is above the law. We've been told this for 4 years, and I think they're finding out.
And there's calls for her to step down, because when there has been precedence with Republicans facing charges, being forced to step down before there was any trial or verdict. I doubt that's going to happen, but we are seeing the administration take these matters seriously. First with Comey, with this, they are not going to just let things go through to the keeper as Republicans have in the past.
They're definitely playing offense. And the other thing too is, so the law may be on their side, and the statute code is so big you can find a law against anybody if you want to bring it, and prosecutors can bring discretion. They are bringing this discretion with offense because the other side crossed the Rubicon first. And for everybody crying that it's politically motivated, I think the counter-argument to that is, so what? Even if it is politically motivated, it has been on the other side as well, and you've got to play dirty and fight fire with fire, is what the Trump administration is clearly
absolutely
indicating.
You had people connected with Trump, people part of the administration, go to jail for things that people were never really charged with. And so the appetite is there, certainly within the Trump camp. If they want to play these games, then we're going to play it by their rules, and it's going to come back to them. It's not going to be a one-way street.
Yeah, I think this is just the beginning, but it is going to mushroom into a big issue right now, and it's certainly creating another political firestorm, so we shall see.
Now, before we switch to the UK, and gosh, we've had some developments there in recent days, what did you make of Trump's Middle East tour? It was astonishing on so many levels, the way he was feted, the speech he gave basically saying the interventionists, the neocons, got it wrong, and they caused a great deal of damage in pursuing regime change. And it seemed to be one where they were going to focus on the shared interest of prosperity as well as peace. It seemed to be as much about making business deals as it was about creating long-lasting peace.
It was really remarkable on so many levels. I call it deal-making diplomacy, because that is his way in bringing trillions of dollars of investment into the country, at least on paper. And the diplomacy was about, it really was shunning his own party, the Republican Party, and what they did in the Bush years and the Forever Wars, kind of giving a nod or paying respects to this very complex culture, imperfect as it may be, but saying it is not the West's job to go and impose themselves on that. And it was also notable, of course, because he did not visit Israel, and that controversy is part of that region, but he was there for these 3 countries and to have his mission of bringing money back to the U.S.
And again, people miss this in this country in particular, but a lot of Trump's policy positions is what the old school left used to have maybe a decade or 2 ago. So it's hard for someone on the left to condemn this, given it's what they've been advocating for a long time. Now, let's switch to the UK, and Keir Starmer, he seems to be morphing into some new age Trump. Let's have a look at some of the stuff he's been posting online in recent times. This is his latest work. He said, if you work here illegally or employ people who do, we're coming for you. Illegal working rates are up 40% and we won't stop there. He posted that on Sunday. The day before, he posted this. For too long, Britain has been addicted to cheap overseas labour, while 1 in 8 of our own young people aren't in education, employment or training. I'm putting our young people first, Britain first. Ooh. Investing in skills they need and ending our dependence on foreign labour. A week earlier, he posted this. This is Keir Starmer, the British Prime Minister. He said, if you want to live in the UK, you should speak English. That's common sense. So we're raising English language requirements across every main immigration route. And this settlement in the UK is a privilege that is earned, not a right. Again, this isn't Donald Trump saying this is Keir Starmer. And finally this, he said, the Tories lost control of our borders and let net migration soar to record levels, undercutting hardworking Brits. I won't stand for it. I promise to restore control and cut migration, and I'm delivering with tough new measures. British workers, I've got your back. Kosha, what is going on? How is this open borders leftist morphing into Donald Trump? If you didn't tell me that was Keir Starmer and you asked me which world leader had posted those tweets, I'd say Donald Trump.
Talk about a metamorphosis, and that is some weapons grade cojones, as they say, for him to just go and do that 180. And I think the reason is those are extremely popular positions. Yes. They have been for the better part of 40 years in the UK, in Australia, in America, in Canada, in the West. And it was a wide opening in the field that the right side of the aisle, for the most part, failed to take in country after country. And so he's taking it because it's a wide opening, and he knows it's popular, it's politically expedient, and on some level you've got to admire it because the left plays to win, and they will do what the other side, failed to.
Well, yeah, I mean, words are cheap. The rhetoric is there. Whether it's actually going to be backed up by action is another thing.
Yes.
Whether they've got the appetite to follow through. But they're worried about reform. Nigel Farage, we hear so much here about how Donald Trump cost the Liberals the election, despite the fact that they went in with a Labor-like policy. Farage is fine about cozying up to Trump, copying some of that ideology, and he's doing brilliantly. He's polling, and also just the recent council elections and by-elections, he did particularly well.
He is, and that's the other reason for this, is politically expedient, as you say, and I think Starmer is trying to neutralize Farage as much as he can. But you're right, words are cheap, and if they don't follow through, they might do a token move here and there. But if they don't follow through, that issue Farage owns. So I think it'll be hard for Starmer to take that away from him.
And really, shame on the Tories. They were in government for so long and they governed like Labor. We're talking about the Liberals here having Labor-like policies. We had Tories governments who thought they were the Labor Party. Now, before you go, leftist activist and football broadcaster Gary Lineker will no longer be a presenter for the BBC after reposting on Instagram a story about Zionism which featured a picture of a rat, an image widely perceived as virulently anti-Semitic. Kosha Lineker is the BBC's highest paid presenter. He's getting paid more than $2.6 million a year. And he's got a long track record of this sort of activism. This isn't new. He seems to be a leftist activist first and football commentator second.
Indeed. This is a big scalp, though, and I think this is a bridge too far. So there are other examples of darlings of the left, like Mehdi Hassan, comes to mind, for example, who was fired for making not similar, but topics, comments around that same topic, and especially Israel and Gaza, and then veering into anti-Semitism. So you reap what you sow, as they say in that case. There is a little bit where people say, as you point out, that he was saying all sorts of controversial political things for years against the right, against other groups, and never had his scalp taken. No. This, though, is the bridge too far, and he probably didn't see it coming.
And you know what? You would feel sorry for someone who you might say in this case has been a victim of cancel culture, but Gary Lineker was such an enthusiastic backer of cancel culture that there ain't no sympathy here. Kosher Gator, thank you so much for your time tonight.
Pleasure.